publisher said, "Hey, why don't you do a book about the cusp, the transition from hippie to punk, from long hair to short hair, from marijuana to sniffing glue." Um, and it's been a subject always of interest me to what I call the cusp between prog and punk. And I was on both sides of that with Curved Air and the Police. And I did keep these diaries, which I pulled out, and they contain. There's the tell-all as well. By the way, it does tell all. It's just that we're such clean living band that we haven't got that much to tell. All doesn't add up to very much, except that we conquered the world and all.
Indeed, and it's fascinating.
But these diaries, they have how much, every gig we played, how much we got paid, how many attended, how well. I even gave us reviews. During the time with Curved Air, I was up in Newcastle, and a local journalist took us to see the local hot band called Last Exit, and they had this bass player.
Wonder who that could
be. Who just had charisma coming out of every pore. And he had his own amp hired right there on the spot. Actually, no, it wasn't quite as easy as that. We were introduced, and I noticed that he could play bass really well. That was what I noticed, and he could also sing. And I wanted a three-piece band, and either the guitarist or the bass player has to sing because I'm breathing too hard, banging stuff. And he could sing and play bass, and had his own amp. There was one more thing, which was this golden shaft of celestial light coming down upon his mighty brow. That guy was an ace in the hole at first glance.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, you did struggle a little bit to get hold of his phone number to start with, but when you did and you managed to give him a call, he said 2 magic words: keep talking.
That's right. Well, the question I asked him is like, I'm calling from London, and I gave him all my hype. But I'm interested in just you, not your band. And he said, keep talking, which meant free agent. All right. So I kept blabbering at him and, bent his ear with my grandiose schemes and convincing certitudes. And it so happened that he was planning on coming down to London anyway, with his wife, bass, amp, dog, and baby Joe. So one afternoon I get a call. "Hello, it's me. I'm down." That singers have this weird husky voice. All singers do. Probably because they're busy singing all the time. He says, "I'm downstairs in a phone booth." "Come on up," says I. And he came up. I thrust a bass into his hand. We switched on, 2 complete strangers. And oh man, joined at the hip musically. We just found that pocket. We dug deep. We raged high. We surged forward. We hung back subtly. And it was just obvious that we were born to play together as the rhythm section. And so that night I took him down to show him the Mark, which was the punk scene, which was just beginning to open up in London. One of the Sex Pistols had just used foul language on national television. Can I say that on your station?
Of course you can. Yeah, go for it.
"Fuck!" is what he said. And of course, the tabloids exploded with glorious fury. And the wheel turned. The next wave came in, only this time we'd be on the front of it instead of on the hippie suds on the back end. And so we went down to the Roxy to look at all the minnows that we could devour as sharks. In our shared arrogance, we knew we would eat everybody's lunch. And by the way, these diaries are that part of our police adventure.
Yes.
Later on, when we were playing arenas, stadiums, after one after the other, it got very repetitive, and you all know that story. But the cool part of the story is the starving years, when we didn't have Message in a Bottle. We didn't have Every Breath You Take. Not even Sting knew that he could write those songs. At that time, we were playing my crap fake punk songs, basically bass lines with yelling, and somehow stuck together for like about a year before Andy joined. Andy discovered us, plucked us from obscurity, and suddenly we had an actual musician in the band, and that's when Sting started writing songs.
Indeed. And we talk about the book. I mean, it was brilliant just flicking through the time capsules, because although it is the story of the police, it's got a lot of kind of your life in the 70s as well in there. Laundry's in there and things like that, and going to the parents for
Oh,
Christmas dinner and stuff like that. So it is a real time
yeah, a lot of
capsule.
Indian meals. A
Yes,
lot of Indian
indeed.
meals.
Yeah. So
Well, it
how
was the
was
only
it?
food worth eating at the time. Indian cuisine, English cuisine, and I'm sure Scottish as well, up there in the north, has become really good. Youngsters probably don't remember the wasteland, the culinary wasteland that was the British Isles back then, where the only food that had any substance and any flavor was Indian food. Every high street and every town had a Prince of India or a Koh-i-Noor or a Tandoor Palace or something, which was the best meal in town. And so every one of those notated in the diaries. But also, this isn't just about the police, because we played with all these other groups, the Clash, the Damned, the Electric Chairs, all these groups, the Jam, Generation X. We were in and out of clubs with all those bands. So it's their story as well.
Yeah. And it does, it encapsulates everything, because you've got right at the very beginning of the Roxy Club. I mean, in Covent Garden, you were there that first night to see Generation X. It really is capturing the start of that real punk movement.
Oh, yeah. I was there with Sting, who had just come down to the Big Smoke. And I say, Stingo, see all this going on here? This is a wild scene, worth getting a haircut.
Absolutely.
And he did. Nowadays, I've read, of course, I did read Andy's book and Sting's book and Henry's book too, and my brother Miles' book, who managed the band. And their recollections part ways with mine in a few cases. But I've got the receipts. I've got every truck receipt, every rehearsal receipt.
Oh, wow.
I've got the receipts, and they're all in the book. But they sort of describe me as this wild-eyed fanatic Taliban drummer who is on the punk mission, which is true. I accept that. But they did cut their hair and fly the flag and join the team. I mean, they were right in there with me. They were not as fanatic as I was the fanatic of the band, because I knew that was the mission.
Yeah.
Not because I could care less. And then when Andy joined, we actually started to write decent music, which allowed us to escape from that and jump out of that carpet bag into a world of actual music.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was it like going through the diaries then to compile the book? I mean, when you're looking at them, are you feeling waves of nostalgia? Is it a nice feeling when you're looking back? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm full of admiration for that youngster, how hard we worked. In Curved Air, which was the previous band, we had 3 roadies, light show, PA, trucks, record company backing, all going on, salary. In Police, we had none of that. I was the record company. The record company was me on the phone selling boxes of records to Aberdeen's record store, and we didn't have any crew. The crew was us, 3 guys on either end of an amp. We didn't have any of that stuff. So it was a struggle. And looking back on these diaries, it reminded me of how hard we worked and what a struggle it was. And by the way, it was still a struggle when we started to succeed and when we climbed up the mountain and we're climbing up to the higher reaches of the mountain. Soon we leave the tree line behind, and we're still going up. We still worked real hard. Yeah. We wanted to be the coolest band and play the best music, and we were desperate to do that. And even when we got rich and famous, we were still desperate for more until we decided, okay, we got enough, and we quit.
And you went out on top. I think I spoke to you about this last time as well. The fact that every album you released got bigger and bigger and bigger until the point where you broke up. And there's not many bands that I can think of at all that have done that.
Yeah, very few bands never saw the other side of the parabola. The inevitable descent back to the real world. We somehow escaped that. My descent back to the real world, personally, was that I got a job where being a rock star didn't help. My job was film composer. And I spent the next 20 years as a hired gun professional film composer. I had to hide my leather pants and antisocial clothing and be just a regular guy, because nobody wants to, a director doesn't want to hire a rock star. He wants to hire somebody who'll do his bidding. And that was me for 20 years. Boy, the film composer is not even an artist, but he has the more chops musically than any other form of musician because he has to. And I derive great benefit from the harsh yoke of cruel employ.
Absolutely. And in terms of the book itself, it comes with a fascinating CD of kind of unreleased demo recordings and things like that. So again, what was that like listening back to those things?
I was impressed. I was pretty good at guitar, you know. These are recordings I did of the original Police songs, eventually Clark Kent songs.
Yep.
And they're my guitar with my Revox A77. And I could sort of overdub in makeshift fashion and create these tracks. And, you know, I was pretty good. I could have been in the Ramones. You know, I could have been a Ramones, except that one track I discovered became a Police song on a later album called It's All Right For You. And the guitar playing on my demo is exactly the same sound, the same feel, clearly the same guitar and amp. Damn, I remember now. Those lazy son of bitches, they said, okay, not bad, okay, sure. But you go ahead and record the track, guitar, bass, and drums. That's me. You know, screw the Ramones. For one afternoon, I was a guitarist in the Police. And then Andy played a proper guitar solo on the top, and Sting wrote a lyric, and hey, presto, it's a Police song. But hey, check out that guitarist. And bass too, by the way.
Wow. There you go. Multi-talented indeed. And also within the book there, you've got the pictures and everything in like that. And there's a nice who's who section as well, which gives you lots of information about all the characters that you passed and met along the way.
Well, they're just referred to in the diary, and you go, wait a minute, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Yep. So there's a place in the book where you can check all these references. So you know who you're partying with at all times.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating book. As I said, it details the early days of the Police. It's 76 to 79, I think it is, and it's just really compact. And like you said, it's got the actual like illustration pictures and things like that from the diaries themselves, so people can see just what you did write and your even your handwriting and things like that. So it is the legitimate real thing.
Yeah, bad spelling, crap doodles. Wrong account. Some of the accounts are in there. Do not add those numbers up. Better at banging stuff than arithmetic.
Anyway, Stuart, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you once more. Just give us one more little plug for your book, and I know we've talked about it already, but give us one more plug. Give us another selling point. Go on.
Another selling point. Well, the book is a story of struggle, and like any of those books that you read about climbing Everest and most of the people died, or some guy stuck at sea for 47 days. It's a story of struggle, but it does get very cheerful.
There you go. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you again, Stuart. Best of luck for the future, and hopefully catch up with you again in the future as well.
All right. Okay. Thanks for listening.